Hello, I'm Matthew Pete Lester, here to speak about Chapter 3 in Creative Inc. And Chapter 3 deals with Steve Jobs and the early days of Pixar. Factors to look at in this chapter we're going to review is goals, communication, conflict, trials, valuable lessons they go through and learn from. Key points we're going to look at: listening to the team, how they build a culture at Pixar. In 1996, first-hand experience of Pixar Image Computer. They had no sales team, no ideas, no marketing. Catmull even writes, how would they ensure quality inventory, find clients, and budget a small business? Slide 2. Catmull turned to the book, Dick Levin's book, Buy Low, Sell High, Collect Early, Pay Late, the Management Guide to Survival or Financial Survival for Organizations. His desire is to become an effective manager, a leader, so to speak. His question, what should they focus on? What should the company or organization focus on? What should they worry about? The advice, time, energy, wisdom, how they're going to spend all of this time. Wanted to think big, make bold moves for the company, dream and go national with their vision, and they need to interact with people and build clients. The next slide. Jobs calls out mediocrity with people that he's dealing with. His character was to make an impact, be outrageous, so to speak, get a reaction, register a response from the people in these meetings, have an aggressive interplay, he says. Next, the first order of business, find and hire good people. Organizations want to find and hire good people. Look to his friends for input, computer relationship or customer relationships with his computer hardware company. The most valuable lesson, MVL, as I say, notice the flaws in the advice from others. That's what he writes in the chapter. Company president said, start with the high numbers on how much these computers are going to cost. Always reduce your price. If you lowball and raise the price, it upsets the clients. Big mistake. They started out at $122,000 per unit. Being overpriced is the only reputation that the customer remembers. Being overpriced is the only reputation that the customer will remember. First impressions stick, he says. Smart and experienced people give bad advice on starting high, building a bad reputation for the company. So that was some bad advice they got. His observation, he started out on the wrong foot. But how would he make these adjustments to meet their expectations, to keep investors interested in the software that they have? Started out with the wrong advice. Started too high on their price, got poor advice. The LL, lesson learned. Ask more questions to the clients and customer. Pixar's experience with the manufacturing of computers and about learning these lessons through this, he says. So he goes to the most valuable lesson that he learned, the history of the Japanese manufacturing system over there. Creativity, engaging the workers, efficiency, inspiration, he says. Build a creative environment. In the Japanese, back in the 1950s, products made in Japan were far more inferior, so he said, below the Mexican products and the Chinese products. Next slide. Learning from Ford. Learning from Ford and Deming. So the innovation from the production line, as we know, Ford Motor Company is famous for that. They keep the cost down, efficiency up. Learning from W. Edwards Deming. Working with the Japanese census, he learned the Japanese reconstruction, teaches productivity, and they also remember that they keep the morale and creativity and engage employees. One student that he had, Akio Morita, the co-founder of Sony, reaped on his rewards and advice. The phrases that came out of his experience: just-in-time manufacturing, total quality control. Those are two. And then his theory about responsibility. Responsibility must happen from the top to the bottom, bottom to the top. Everyone could find and fix the problems, the mistake. Everyone could suggest changes to be made. Generating unheard levels of production, improved the Japanese quality, added to the market share through his advice. But Catmull's beacon turning on the light was when he found this new wisdom about thinking about creativity differently. He grew deeper values in the cultural values in their system. Workers should have to ask questions, shouldn't have to ask any questions to take responsibility and have order in their system. Okay, big concerns for Steve Jobs in the 1980s. The next point, next slide. Building the company. Next, NEXT struggled to figure out how to profit from this company. He searched for a business model. Pixar triumphed. So in the meantime, 1987, they come up the Academy Award winner, The Little Lamp, Luxo. 87, Tiny Toy won an Oscar, but they came up on a hard times, low points. Steve Jobs felt that he did not know how to run a business or a company. And remember, he comes over from Apple, and they let him go, forced him out the door. So now he's struggling to get this company off the ground. He's invested $54 million. He's only sold 300 units that year. Next slide. The bad news for them. Pixar was up for sale from 1987 to 91 3 times. Microsoft even came across offering $90 million. Steve Jobs turns it down. But he felt on the inside he had some external validation from the offer that Pixar had value in the company and their workers had value. Next slide. Survival and the downside here. He's a brilliant man. He's inspirational. But Pixar could not have survived without Steve Jobs and his innovation in this process. However, on the other side, the downside, Jobs, he was dismissive, condescending, threatening, even a big bully on the job. Catmull reports that Jobs could not put himself in other people's shoes, and he had no sense of humor at all. Couldn't laugh at himself and had no sense of humor. So they come upon a situation. They need a big client. They go to Disney, executives meeting with Disney. Steve Jobs comes in and tells his team, listen and let's just listen and do no talking. However, Steve Jobs just communicates the entire time. He talks to Disney. Disney considers Pixar for their new project. Okay, but on the other hand, there's internal conflict going on at Pixar. Internal conflict. Steve Jobs refuses to pay payroll. Catmull considers resigning from the company, leaving the company. Catmull's question, how do we resolve conflict? That's his question. We marshal our thoughts. We debate the issues. And we respect the passion of others. Next slide. So Pixar and Disney, they're in a deal. 91, they cut a deal on 3 pictures they want to produce. By 93, Pixar has one chance to come across with Toy Story, you know, the film Andy, Woody, Buzz Lightyear, and their adventure with the other toys. The original character of Woody, they put him as too perky. They changed the character down, so Pixar made him a dark and mean character. It didn't match what Disney was wanting to do with this type of character. So Disney's reaction, shut it down. Shut down the project. No more. Pixar comes up with a new plan. They come out storytelling. They're going to start storytelling with this Andy and Woody and Buzz Lightyear. You're familiar with the film. Next slide. Pixar's new plan and the big moment for them prior to Toy Story. Premiere. Steve Jobs comes out. He wants to go public with the company. Negotiate with the Disney top man, Eisner, establish a moral high ground with this guy. The biggest public IPO of 1995 because of this film. Raises $140 million for the company. Disney and Pixar are 50-50 in this agreement with Steve Jobs comes up with. Next on the plate, they've got A Bug's Life. You know that's not one of my favorite stories, but here to talk about, now they say, now what? The next slide is now what? Public and successful, Pixar and their lamp logos all over the world. Internal and external dynamics take place. And how they're undoing their company here with all of these conflicts and what's going on. Steve Jobs and the people, they don't feel accomplished. They've made history, but now he wants to make himself accessible to employees. Let the employees have a voice now. He brought in some topics, people from other companies to come in with help with this movie. They want to treat the employees with respect. They want to take this self-assessment of the company, take constructive criticism seriously. They want to treat people equal, not treat them as second-class citizens. Next slide. Lesson learned and a purpose that he comes up with here, chapter 3. Lessons learned. Keep people in the loop. Keep them informed. Frustrations exist, so you have to keep everyone in communication, informed on the project. Do not dismiss suggestions from your employees and team members. Okay, they've got a new purpose now. Sticking my head into other people's office, saying hello. And we've had managers that just walk down the hallway. You never seen them, but he wanted to change the face of the business and have stick his head in the doors, pull up a chair, share their points of view, have internal conversations, intentional conversations. Next slide. Key lessons and vital factors at the company. Key lesson, exchange of information is vital. Communications be open to anyone at any time at all levels, he thought. Lack of communications is bad. It can undo a company, break down a company. A human interaction is key. You have to talk and communicate with people. And they want to build a sustainable, creative culture with this company. The vital factors that we see: honesty, excellence, communication, originality, self-assessments again. Be committed to the team members. Next slide. The conclusion here. How do we wrap this thing up? I've got 2 questions for you. Can you use these leadership lessons, such as listening to others, adding value to others, finding the right talent with your organization, fostering a creative culture like they did, engage and fix the problems that they came across, and guiding others with your organization with these points from chapter 3. Another question: how will you use these key elements in your organization once you have discovered them as a leader? From a business, a startup business you may want to get into, or a long-term business, and how do you point into succession for that company using your creative side to keep from undoing the company? And that's the end of chapter 3, and tune in to chapter 5 here soon. Thank you.